Dragons are objectively the coolest creatures in fiction, but what if I told you that they could get even cooler? When it comes to certified badass bitch Pokemon, there is one type that stands above all others in the field of just being heckin' cool. Since the very first game, the dragon types have been the undisputed champions of the franchise, only usurped upon the creation of the dastardly fairy types in Generation 6, ruining the fun of dragon trainers from Blackthorn to Opalucid. Rest in peace, Hydreigon. It was nice knowing you. Alongside the fiendish fun-ruining fairy types was the new contender for the crown of power in everyone's favorite recently resurrected gimmick, Mega Evolution. Hyper-powered dragons rose from the ashes of their former glory, once again ranking #1 on the power ladder, with a certain dragon flying space noodle earning itself a joint gold medal for highest base stat total, sharing top podium with everyone's favorite oversized embryonic antisocial kitty cat. Unfortunately, although this phenomenon brought new life to some, it left other deserving dragons in the dust. For unknown reasons, these Pokemon were looked over by Game Freak, and some still to this day have not had so much as a crumb of love from their game dev overlords. But there's hope. Thanks to the surprise reveal of Pokemon Legends ZA, a revisit to the France-based Kalos region, alongside the confirmation that Mega Evolution is, once again, on the table, I'm here today to provide a glimpse into the future. One in which these dragons are able to stand alongside their Mega Evolved kin. Now, when it comes to robbed dragons, there is no one more robbed than this first Pokemon. Of the pseudo-legendaries, a subcategory set aside for the strongest Pokemon of the region, always a 3-stage and usually a dragon, we've had Hisuian Goodra, Iron Jugulus, Mega Garchomp, Mega Metagross, and Salamence and Tyranitar both got 2 forms each, in the form of a Mega and a Paradox form respectively. Every single pseudo-legendary Pokemon created in or before Generation 6 has had a new form, except for the OG themselves. All of these whippersnappers have been given new forms, leaving the granddaddy of them all behind. Despite being arguably the most iconic of them all, Dragonite has never been bestowed with anything from Game Freak. Dragonite is a bipedal orange dragon that somehow evolves from this gorgeous, majestic noodle. Its design evokes imagery of stereotypical dragons, and it has a soft and kindly face. This dragon-flying physical attacker is known as the Guardian of the Sea, guiding lost sailors to shore and saving people from drowning. This Pokemon is known for its mellow, courageous nature at times, but is noted for the sheer fury it can display when threatened. This Pokemon was first found in the Kanto region, notable for being the ace Pokemon of the final member of the Indigo League Elite Four and future champion of the Johto region, Lance. He loved Dragonite so much, in fact, that he had 3 of them. Dratini and its subsequent evolutions are very rare in its debut generation, only available in the game corner in exchange for gambling. Or at a low encounter rate when fishing in the Safari Zone. We don't talk about the anime episode that covered this, it never happened. For the Mega Evolved form of the original Dragon type, in my research, I found that so many people had made their Dragonite Fakemon return to a more Dragonair-like look, extending the body, like in this design by Serena Shin on DeviantArt, reintroducing the blue, like in these designs by Lucas Costa and my Elestral's colleague Elite Four, or adorning the Mega with the spheres that also feature in Dragonair's design. I get it, Dragonair is super pretty and stuff, and Dragonite looks like Barney the dinosaur, but we love them and cherish them for being themselves. It's okay, baby. With these Mega designs, I really enjoy some choices, such as these swirl motifs and these catfish-like whiskers, and the whole superhero concept behind Elite Four's design as a callback to Dragonite's nature as a savior of sailors. So here it is. I decided that for my Mega form, I'd switch up the typing a little bit and give this guy even more Gen 6 flavor by sprinkling on a little bit of pixie dust. Other than Mega Altaria, we still don't have any fairy dragon types, and I think that Mega Dragonite suits the cutesy treatment. Its bug-like antennae have grown and curled in on themselves, creating a swirl pattern present across the feathered horns, wings, and tail. The theme of the evolution is plenty of round shapes, with belly scales that are rounded out and wings replaced with soft feathered ones inspired shape-wise performance-wise by butterflies. Alongside the type change, Mega Dragonite gets the standard 100-point stat boost that all Mega Pokemon get, focusing on its physical attack and speed. It also receives a new ability to replace Multiscale in Pixelate, to convert its normal type moves to stab fairy ones. Since, when designing Mega Forms, you can't add new moves, so you have to work with what you already have, meaning that extreme speeds it's already known for will hit even harder. In gameplay, Mega Dragonite uses its Multiscale in bulk to boost its stats with Dragon Dance, followed by a Mega Evolution to boost its stats even further, then letting loose stab fairy extreme speeds to any opposing dragons that look at it the wrong way. Upon Mega Evolution, Mega Dragonite's good nature washes over itself, smoothing out its edges and burning away any wrath it was holding. Mega Dragonite is extremely mellow in nature, cheerfully executing the will of its trainer and blissfully unaware of the sheer damage it inflicts upon its foes. It'll do almost anything for belly rubs. Generation 6 may have introduced us to the concept of Mega Evolution. It is joined with Gen 5 in having the fewest native species capable of Mega Evolution, prior to Gen 7 of course. Of the entire Kalos Pokédex, which is absolutely stacked with bangers by the way, the only Generation 6 Pokemon to receive a Mega Evolution is Diancie? I mean, there's nothing wrong with Diancie of course, but like, come on. For some reason, the Pokemon of Kalos were almost entirely snubbed, and many still haven't been given any love. Of the two dragons of the region, today I'll be mega evolving the pseudo-legendary Pokemon, Goodra. Although it has been given a regional form in the Hisui region in the Dragon Steel Hisuian Goodra, I think, as a Gen 6 Pokemon, it deserves a Gen 6 gimmick. Goodra is a pure dragon type that is known for not much. As pseudos go, it's probably the most underwhelming performance-wise, even though I think it's just a cute little squishy baby that deserves the world. Goodra is notable among its pseudo-legendary peers as of yet, it is the only one to have an evolution method outside of a simple level up. Goodra evolves when it's rainy, owing to its moist mollusk nature. According to the Pokédex, Goodra is an incredibly friendly and loving Pokemon. It loves nothing more than hugging its beloved trainer and playing in the rain. It's so friendly that if left alone too long, it gets lonely and it'll start crying. Despite all of this, Goodra is capable of punching people with its prehensile horns, hitting with the strength of 100 pro boxers, and slamming enemies with its thick tail that can easily send a dump truck flying. Goodra's most notable stat is its special defense at 150, although, again, despite what the Pokédex says, this guy's special attack stats are higher than its physical, making it a somewhat effective bulky special attacker that most often makes use of its Sap Sipper ability to gain an immunity to grass. Hisuian Goodra trades HP and speed for defense and an improved typing. This Pokemon is inspired by snails, and due to its France-originated region, is likely based off of the Lucaco. Hold up. Is there a phonetic version of that anywhere? Lucacol. Lucacol? Lucacol. Lucacol. C'est une Lucacol. Lucacol. One of those. Whatever. This Pokemon is inspired by snails, and due to its France-originated region, is likely based off of the Lucacol, French folktale about a giant snail serpent that makes its environment super slimy and uses incredibly long tentacles to drag its victims into its subterranean home underneath Hastings in the southwest of France. With a soft, gooey body and swell features that mimic the pattern found on snail shells. This Pokemon also drips a green goo from its extremities and has eyes and spots that are also green. Its Hisuian counterpart is fairly similar, but features metallic goo and a large, rigid snail shell that has grown over its tail. While researching for this guy, I found a couple of Mega Forms with features that I liked. This one by Elite Robo features a new typing, which I figured would be absolutely necessary for a new Mega, as well as a new quadrupedal stance. This other one by Bennett Shiny 44 is super neat looking. I love the Davy Jones vibes and the introduction of a big old snail shell. For my Mega Evolution, I decided to enhance Goodra's snail-like features and leaned into a design based off of sea snails. Specifically the Murex genus, which is notable for their long spines and being the source of royal Tyrian purple dye since ancient eras. Mega Goodra is a dragon water type. Its tail, like its Hisuian counterpart, has grown and curled in on itself. An iridescent shell has spread over parts of its skin to support spiky hollow crests, with which it can compress and shoot pulses of water or energy at immense speeds. The lightweight but tough shell is semi-rigid, being able to bend somewhat. The incredible power of Goodra's new cannon tail is owed to a sharp rise in special attack, as well as Mega Goodra's new ability in Mega Launcher, boosting all of its pulse attacks to blistering levels. It is slower than its non-evolved counterparts, but conversely uses its immense bulk and lower center of gravity to root itself to the ground when firing off its water artillery. Goodra's already high defenses have only increased, and this thing is a truly impenetrable wall. During combat, Hisuian Goodra holds steadfast, easily brushing off enemy attacks and returning fire with considerable force. This squidgy slug still maintains its happy temperament, and whenever it hits a particularly good shot, it'll immediately rush to its trainer for celebratory cuddles. Now, I know that when Pokemon Legends ZA was first announced, most artists rushed with their pens for the Pokemon that deserves a Mega more than any other. For those that don't know, over a third of the fully evolved Generation 3 roster was given a Mega Evolution, since Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire were released in 2014, taking place in Generation 6, and was given an alternate universe timeline to fit squarely within the canon of XY. Most of the Pokemon you'd expect to get Mega Evolutions got them, as well as a few that were a bit more on the unexpected side. But there is one glaring omission. The reason that everyone and their mothers are up in arms about Flygon specifically being overlooked for a Mega Evolution is that we know it very nearly was a reality. Game Freak's original plan was for Arun, the Noivern-born secret base obsessed dude whose only known Pokemon is, of course, Flygon, to be given a special new Mega Evolution. In a 2015 interview with Ken Sugimori, the Game Freak developer said, "Flygon has had the potential to have a Mega Evolution since XY, but we were unable to complete a design, and so it was dropped from consideration," while speaking to Nintendo Dream magazine. Going from the phrasing of this quote, this leads me to believe that somewhere out there are official beta sketches for Mega Flygon, and I need them. But just knowing about what we so nearly got was enough to send Fakemon artists into a frenzy, trying to prove Pokemon wrong, that Flygon can absolutely be turned into a Mega. And here I am, throwing my hat into the ring. Flygon, the mystic Pokemon, is a dragon ground-type Pokemon based off of the adult form of the antlion, a desert-dwelling, trap-setting fly with a mature appearance similar to those of dragonflies. Flygon has been given the nickname Spirit of the Desert, as it's known to use its wing beats to kick up sand, which also sound eerily like a woman singing. It's even known to use this sweet, strange sound to lure in its prey and unlucky trainers that have their hearts stolen by its mesmerizing tones. Flygon uses the sandstorms it whips up whenever it flies to hide itself, as well as hiding Crocodile, a species it often teams up with while hunting. Flygon is a very popular Pokemon, featuring a really good mix of cool and cute design features. Gameplay-wise, Flygon is one of the many Pokemon that have wings or are off the ground, but don't have the flying type, so Pokemon just slap Levitate on there. This gives it a total immunity to ground types, as well as its dragon typing, giving it protection from types that usually played ground types. But on the flip side, also blesses it with a quad weakness to ice. When it comes to Mega Evolving Flygon, I found artists typically go for a more dragonfly-like look, and a bug type change to go along with it. Designs usually feature at least one more pair of wings, and a sleeker form. I particularly like this one by Ethereal Haze. The bug features are accentuated beautifully, and I love its zen-like pose and how the wings almost look like a sun design to complement its desert motif. For my Mega Evolution, I took the Spirit of the Desert part of Flygon's lore and expanded upon it, making Flygon a true siren of the sands. Instead of taking a flying stance in battle, my design prefers to stand, so that it has more control over the winds it whips up. The patterns spreading across its body are very geometric in appearance, inspired by those found in desert cultures around the world, and they highlight splits across Flygon's skin. I envisioned that with this Mega Evolution, it outgrows its current form and bursts through its old skin, much like insects in nature do when they molt. With Mega Flygon, I've leaned into Flygon's more trap-based nature, and replaced its levitate ability, since Mega Flygon is more stationary than its regular counterpart, also naturally leading to a lower speed stat, but a much higher special attack. It stands its ground and beats its wings to whip up the sands around it, the lurid colors and eye shapes on its wings and tail flashing in the summer sun to make a mirage-like display that tempts enemies towards it. The wind whistles through its scales to create singing sound waves that vibrate the particles in the air. This is due to its new ability, Sonic Sand Wave. This triggers a sandstorm upon Mega Evolution and converts all sound-based moves to ground type, similar to Primarina's Liquid Voice. The boom bursts this thing lets loose hit way harder than the strongest earthquakes it could unleash before, ripping their way through every particle of earth in the vicinity and piercing the very bones of its targets. Mega Flygon is an invincible force within the bounds of its sandstorm, viciously assaulting everything with its haunting tones, and the battle itself completely obscured by the sounds of the tornado and the flashes of light reflected off of Flygon's brilliant scales. Another pseudo-legendary that, until recently, had been completely overlooked by its overlords at Game Freak is the Dark Dragon-type brutal Pokemon, Hydreigon. Hydreigon is a 3-headed, 6-winged black, pink, and blue Pokemon with a somewhat puppet-like appearance. It also features a pair of tire track designs on its chest, remnants from when it was originally going to be designed after tanks. This fairy-fearing ferocious fiend was recently given a brand new form in Area 0 in the, unfortunately, ultimately underwhelming future Paradox Pokemon, Iron Jugulus. Like many of its future counterparts, I personally think that the robotic concept was completely wasted, and a design that could have gone so hard just ended up being Hydreigon, but robot. The only notable thing about it is its weird Pokédex entry that states that it may be the result of a Hydreigon falling in love with a robot and,
Life, finds a way.
Hydreigon is a remarkably vicious Pokemon that truly deserves its dark typing. The brutal Pokemon is a 3-headed monster with its 2-arm heads not possessing brains. The only thing they know how to do is rip apart anything in front of them. The central head is shockingly intelligent, but is consistently barraged with thoughts of destruction, and there are many stories of villages being completely decimated by rampaging Hydreigon. Although inversely, it is said that Hydreigon grew ferocious in the first place because ancient people thought of it as an incarnate form of evil and would attack it relentlessly. Lil man's just misunderstood. In-game, Hydreigon is notable for a few things. Outside of battle, it actually has the highest evolution in the entire franchise, not evolving from Zweilous until level 64. In battle, this Pokemon is known for its absurdly devastating Draco Meteors, as well as its use in anti-sand teams in its Gen 5 debut, thanks to its levitate ability, although it struggled in more recent generations due to a mixture of power creep, low speed, and fairy types. When it comes to fan-made mega forms for this guy, I really enjoyed this piece by Harlequin Waffles, who turns Hydreigon into this turbulent mass of heads that kind of gives me similar vibes to the one in Hercules. I really enjoy this interpretation of the Pokemon, so when it came to my version, I ended up going with something similar, but a little bit less bulky. If we did get the form change that Hydreigon deserves, I hope it would look something like this. Mega Hydreigon gains an extra pair of heads inspired by its Hydra nature, as well as a cheeky bonus head at the end of its tail, doubling its total bite output and therefore increasing its damage output. More heads, of course, means more eyes, and why not add an extra 6 eyes on top of that, just for fun, and a little bit of extra creep factor. All 3 of Hydreigon's central heads in this form have independent brains, and they delight in having equally devious and evil partners to discuss their dastardly plans with. The magenta across its body gains a ghoulish glow similar to that of Mega Banette, and it loses its useless hind limbs and replaces them with a thick tail to help it balance. Its wings have grown in length, and as well as enhancing its speed in the air, they can now be used as spider-like legs when Hydreigon is on the ground. Using these newly prehensile limbs, it is able to pin down its targets to the ground as all 6 heads mercilessly rip its prey to shreds, eviscerating them from all angles until even their bones have been consumed. Although this Pokemon is still a flyer and worthy of the levitate ability, it does gain a new ability, because it would be boring if it didn't. Mega Hydreigon's new signature ability, Frenzy Fangs, affects all biting moves, giving the damage of the move the chance to trigger up to 3 times. To make this even more deadly, many of Hydreigon's new points have been shifted to its physical stat, where its Pokédex entry states it should be, making this Pokemon a true mixed attacker. Mega Hydreigon is consistently in a frenzy, each of its heads egging the others on. Where it was once feared that this Pokemon would level villages, Mega Hydreigon is a serious threat to small cities. So that's it. That's all the dragons I made Mega Evolutions for. I got ya. You really thought that I, Cup of Fee, would forget my second favorite Pokemon of them all. You guys really thought I could just not evolve Noivern, aka the best dragon type, aka the bad bitch bat themselves? Well, you're wrong. I'm a bit insulted, to be honest. And while I have your attention, I'd like to direct you towards the sponsor of today's video, me! I have 3 gorgeous hand-drawn designs based off of the Kanto starters. And if, like me, you want to rep Pokemon merch that's a little less on the nose, and maybe a little bit more subtle, these are perfect. My hoodies and t-shirts are made with soft fabrics with vibrant colors. And don't forget to pick up a hat or a mug too. Perfect for a cup of tea. Or coffee, I guess. Go to www.cupoffee.com and order now. It would just make my day. Thank you. Noivern is a flying dragon-type Pokemon based off of Wyverns. They're primarily a dark purple with lighter accents across the wings and stomach, as well as a jarring bright teal across its inner wings and ears. In my opinion, Noivern has one of the coolest designs in the entirety of the Pokemon franchise. It's just the shape of it. It's a good dragon. They are unmatched in the dark, thanks to their excellent hearing and echolocation techniques that they can make use of due to their gigantic speaker-like ears. They have been known to reduce boulders to dust with nothing but the power of their supersonic sound waves, and aren't afraid to use this ability on their opponents. Because of this, their notoriously cruel dispositions and their absolute domination in the absence of light. Even the previous entry in this video, Hydreigon, are known to be terrified of Noivern. On the flip side, however, during daylight, this Pokemon knows its advantage is gone and tends to avoid battle, instead sleeping through the day or enjoying some delicious berries. What a cutie! They are the other Rob Dragon type of the Kalos region. In battle, this Pokemon has a few niches, although in higher tiers, it's almost completely useless. Its major boons are its fantastic speed and the power of its hurricanes. For a Mega form, I found this design by PewZero that I really enjoy. It features the white fur that usually spreads across Noivern's neck, coating its head and tail, as well as its nasal crest, increasing in size. I love how floofy it looks. I just want to give it a cuddle. This design's cool, but I wanted to go for something a bit more dynamic for my design. Mega Noivern is a blind dragon flying type. The organ on its nose has grown to create a dish over the upper portion of its face to magnify its powers of echolocation and vocal prowess even further. Since this is a temporary form, Mega Noivern is never seen in the daylight and thus has zero need for sight. So Mega Noivern sacrifices its eyes altogether in return for a skyrocket in sonic power. The tail and wings grow in length and are joined by new fins across the base of the tail to aid in aerial mobility, meaning this already menacing Pokemon is now capable of even more impressive flight, turning on a dime if needed to. It is capable of producing a full 360-degree mental image of the space surrounding it, having total awareness of anything that is touched by even the smallest sound wave in its vicinity. Mega Noivern's new form provides this Pokemon with a new ability unique to Noivern. Due to its complete dominance in the dark, this Pokemon gains a new ability called Moonless Night. This ability boosts Noivern's accuracy when the sun isn't shining and disables all moon-based moves, such as Moonblast or Lunar Dance. This Pokemon was already considered speedy, but now it is blisteringly fast, with an enhanced special attack to back it up. The ear-splitting chatters this Pokemon emits are rebounded through the vibrating membranes of its crest and ears, ripping through anyone in its vicinity, like a sonic boom. Mega Noivern is a Pokemon you don't see coming. It silently swoops through the dark, isolating and stalking its target, until it's too late. You helped me be the best I ever was to pay my rent. Yeah, that's my cause. Lucas Skates, Edward White, EX Happy Face of Ellington, PSA Pimp, Borgo 169, Menko the Team Maker, Rachel Lynn. Thank 'em, gotta thank 'em all, gotta thank 'em all. Patreon. SDH, Zachary Green, DJ Coleo 3, Brent Kearney, Ryan McBee, Immortal Absol, Heavy Metal Mew. That's all I got for this one. If you want in, join the Patreon.